Well, let's jump right in. And I have to say, even with 66 minutes, you cover a lot of ground in that first episode. Like there is so much that you have to do. How is it making sure that you fit in all this backstory, included all these kingdoms, and still kind of told a coherent story right out the gate for the Rings of Power?
It's like every day felt like a battle. Every day was like, okay, so what are we doing today? Oh my God. So you look at the calendar, you look at the shooting plan, and it's so demanding. But the truth is that we have the best team possible, the best crew, and the best actors. And I love the scripts. I love the scripts. They were great. And also you had the books. So the books were a great help. I read them again to do the episodes because they're so rich, and the way Tolkien tells about the story using the landscape, like being able to focus in the epic, but at the same time don't lose sight on detail. So to me, like reading the books again actually was a great help. And also we had I really love the scripts, so that they were also a great help.
Well, in developing the look for this, I mean, you're working with Oscar again, who you've been working with like at least Huerfanato, if I remember correctly. Like, how did you want to capture the look of each of these different distinct parts of Middle Earth?
Yeah, this story, Lord of the Rings, is one of those stories where color, texture, light and darkness is so important for the storytelling. It's like when you read Tolkien, it's like reading fairy tales. He focuses in this kind of like ideas, like very strong ideas, ugly versus beauty, good and bad, and like evil, good versus evil, and darkness and light, So that's like the best when you sit down with your cinematographer and you start to design the scenes, because you can use all these elements to the maximum effect to create that impact that you have on the audience that you have when you read the books. So it was great. I know that Oscar was going to be perfect because his cinematography is always beautiful. It's extraordinary. The way he uses light and the beauty he's able to capture with his camera is perfect for this story.
The second episode I love the two different kinds of action scenes. You have a really up close, ugly, brutal fight scene in a house, and then you've got a big like scene on the water, like straight out of Jaws, or kind of what you did with Fallen Kingdom. Like, how was it kind of like? Let's talk about the house fight, because that feels almost like a cabin scene from a Sam Raimi movie. How was it getting like up close and dirty with that fight?
I think one of the key elements is the idea of building up. So it's not about surprising the audience. It's about creating a sense of dread that is building up slowly, not in second episode. When we talk about that scene, it's something that starts in the first episode, because you know that something is going on underneath the surface. Something is cooking up very slowly, and it's emerging to the surface. And that's why it works so well, because you've been working that feeling since the very first frame, from the very first moment that you see Galadriel, thinking something is going on here, and finally at the end of second episode emerges to the surface and attacks the mother and the kid alone at their house. So it's very effective.
How about I feel like filming something in the water can be so complicated. Like, how is it like figuring out such a big scene to close out episode 2 with the beast attacking the raft?
Yeah, actually, there were a lot of hesitation about that scene because it felt so demanding, and because I shot The Impossible and I knew how to work on a big water tank. There was a moment, Oscar also worked, the cinematographer, with me in that movie, and there was a moment that we convinced the rest of the people, like, we should do this. It's a great scene. I think we can make it. I did a plan. I showed them. I said, we're going to see the monster only like 2-3 shots in the scene, but we're going to create this sense of dread. And at we were able to fit that into the shooting schedule, and everybody was super happy with the result.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it feels like it's like Jaws, man. It's great. Like with the Harfoots, I mean, there's kind of like almost like an innocence when we see them in this episode, and when they're on the road, kind of like getting berries. But there is, like you were saying, there is still that sense of dread when they see like the wolf print and everything. Like, what was it about kind of the Harfoots are almost like the soul of this story. Like, how was it kind of like introducing them with these episodes?
Yeah, that was great because you are focused more in the political when you talk about the elves. So it's more like something that it's more related to Lord of the Rings, the books, but then you go to your inner child with the Harfoots, and that connects more with the Hobbit. So that's why it's so rich. The books are talking. You can read them when you're a kid, and you will find enough material to enjoy it, and then you read them again when you're a grown up and you discover new things, and that was one of the more exciting things to be involved in this show because it's so rich. You can set up like a whole plot line on the politics of the elves, but then you can enjoy and have fun with the Harfoots and enjoy your inner child, by doing that.
Well, and so much of like Tolkien is about like this beauty and appreciation and protection of nature. And I love the shots that you have, just the sweeping landscape shots you have of New Zealand. How was it filming and just having that as your set, like having that beautiful like mountains or hills as your set?
Yeah, it was fantastic. When we talk about the world of Tolkien and we talk about beauty versus evil, beauty versus ugliness, and we were able to capture those beautiful landscapes. But at the same time, when you focus in the orcs, for example, and you get into these black, muddy waters, that felt so close to horror, and I love horror. So the possibilities in New Zealand were endless, because we have the best scenarios in there.
I think I have time for one more. And you were mentioning you went back and read the books and it was very helpful for you. Like, what was one detail in the books that you really wanted to highlight when you were filming these two episodes?
To me, what was more, it's to discover again how Tolkien uses the landscape. How somehow he's able to tell about the mood of the characters by using the landscape. It's so important. And in that sense, I had a talk with the guys, with the showrunners, and I said, listen, we should go for the CinemaScope. The aspect ratio should be the big screen, because we need to fit that landscape into the television format, and there's no way of doing that if you do it square. So we went to the CinemaScope in order to be able to capture that, and that was something that I took straight from the books. When I read them again, and I realized how important was nature and the way you capture nature in order to understand what the characters are going through.
Jay, thanks for taking the time. Mucho gusto en conocerte.
Thank you so much, Sam. Bye.